somebody asks you, what's the worst WrestleMania? Which one comes to mind? I don't really have an answer for that question, but on a lot of people's short list, WrestleMania 9 is that worst WrestleMania. So I went and took a look back. I went and I watched the whole thing from beginning to end. And this is, I guess, I don't want to say a review. I'm not going to rate it or anything like that, but this is just what I took away from watching it. So here we go. We're going to run it down. WrestleMania 9 from 1993. It was in Las Vegas, Nevada. Caesar's Palace put this thing on, and they created a Roman Coliseum outside. The look of it was awesome. So like when it came in and the intro and all that stuff, the look was great. It looked really cool. I like outside venues, especially in this setting. Being in Vegas, it was a sunny day. There was no rain. It was awesome. It was great. And the fans were there for it. They just cheering everything that was going on. So it had a nice buildup. It had a nice intro into the show, right? And then to start the thing off is Shawn Michaels, a very young Shawn Michaels. He's the Intercontinental Champion at this time. He's going up against Tatanka, which this is the storyline, I guess, of when Sherry isn't Shawn Michaels' valet anymore, or manager, whatever you want to call it, but Luna Vachon is. So it's kind of a weird, he comes out, does his thing, and then Luna is kind of trailing him, right? So she comes out, and then Tatanka comes out, and then Sherry comes out. So it's kind of like this, Sherry's not with Tatanka, but she got some beef with Luna, and Shawn Michaels at that time. And it was a cool little story on the side, right? Because they're on the outside and they're both kind of chipping at each other and stuff like that. And they follow it really well. And which on commentators on this show is good old JR. It's his first WrestleMania. So you hear a lot from him, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Macho Man Randy Savage. So it's a really cool dynamic of listening to them, especially, because you're getting used to it, listening to all three of them in this first match. And they're telling the story and what's going on. But the match itself, Tatanka comes in undefeated, and again, Shawn Michaels is your Intercontinental Champion. So it's kind of is Tatanka going to get his first loss? Is Shawn Michaels going to drop the title? It's a nice start. The match was great. It was a great match from beginning to end. I mean, it's definitely a different style of wrestling from what you see today. This whole card is different from what you see today. But that first match set a great tone. So just from that, I'm already thinking this can't be the worst WrestleMania. I don't really look at it that way anyway, because I think you can take a lot of good from every show. And if you want to point out all the bad stuff and dwell on that, fine, more power to you. But that's not why I watch pro wrestling. I'm a pro wrestling fan. So for me, this match starting out was great. It was awesome. And there were some really great spots in it. And they kind of work on, Shawn Michaels has this shoulder injury, right? And Tatanka's just working on it throughout the match, some arm bars or a shoulder breaker or just stuff like that. So it's just you're telling that story, and it's great. And I don't know how many times I'm going to say this match was great, because this is a great match. This was probably my favorite match of the entire show. So you have all this happening in another great spot where I don't think, and I don't know if I'm absolutely correct on this. I don't think Shawn Michaels has perfected the super kick as his finisher yet, or if he has, it's not as prominent as it would end up being. Because there's a spot where Tatanka comes off the top rope to either do a chop or a double axe handle or something, and Michaels catches him with a super kick. I think if you would have done that a few years later, that match would have been over there, because of how somewhat protected the Sweet Chin Music was. So that was an awesome spot. And then there's another spot where Tatanka ends up getting Shawn Michaels off the top rope and does an electric chair drop right in the middle of the ring. It's a really good spot, especially in 93. And the fans are in it the whole time. The finish is kind of I don't want to say it's a bad finish. It was confusing a little bit, where Shawn Michaels is a heel at this point. Tatanka is definitely the face in this match. And HBK pulls the referee out of the ring, right? So he's on the outside. He yanks the ref out. And then the ref kind of for some reason he counted Michaels out, but it could have been a disqualification. They weren't real clear, but it was basically he counted HBK out. HBK loses the match, but he doesn't lose the title. And that's important to know. So later on in this card, that rule of you can get counted out and not lose your title is important. And I'll tell you, well, when I get there, I'll make sure I mention that again. So that's how that match ended. And again, my favorite match of the show was that first match. And it was great. It was super great. So great start. We're going to say great 20 more times about this match. Awesome start. I'm already having a good time watching this show. The next match is the Steiner brothers and the Head Shrinkers. I don't see, I'm watching this and I see that that's the second match, and people, you can't tell me this is the worst WrestleMania now, because the first two matches are fantastic. The Head Shrinkers, awesome look. They come in, it's Fatu and Samu. I think it's Samu. I may have just screwed that up, but it's definitely Fatu, who is later Rikishi, as we all know. I mentioned that before in a previous episode. But I can't remember who's on the outside with them, who their manager is. But then you have the Steiners, Rick and Scott, and this is, they're gaining a lot of momentum as a tag team. They're well known within pro wrestling, so it's really awesome. It's a brawling match. That's all it is. You see Steiner liners all over the place from both Rick and Scott. You've got headbutts from the Head Shrinkers, and it's just so great. It's a lot of action. You see Scott pulls off one of his over the head belly suplexes. He pulls off a Frankensteiner. One of the things, anytime I watch a lot of the Samoan wrestlers, and it's not just Samoan, but it's predominantly Samoan wrestlers, when you see this, they'll wrestle barefoot. And I'm always, I just think of this. I don't know why, but I mean, to me, there's a lot of danger for your toesies out there, man. I don't know if I would ever wrestle barefoot. You could get your, foot hung up on the rope, or if you're on the outside, you get a toe that gets hung up on the railing and you break your toe off. It's baffles me how they do this. So it's really cool. I really like the Samoan wrestlers, and especially the Head Shrinkers. Great tag team. The match was fantastic. Moving on. I don't want to dwell on these matches too much because there's a lot of stuff I want to get to towards the end of this card. This next match was fun. I'm baffled, not knowing what the card was fully to, what every match was on this card. I knew a little bit, but I didn't know a lot. Watching Crush and Doink was good. The story was good. This is the angle where Matt Bourne, who plays Doink, and then you have Bryan Adams, who's Crush. They did the angle where where Doink has the fake arm, and the story in the video package, he offers, Doink offers Crush a flower to kind of make amends, and he takes the fake arm off and he beats him down with it. It's great. It's so entertaining. And then you get to this. Matt Bourne is awesome as Doink. You can say what, I mean, he obviously, that guy, he had something going on away from pro wrestling, but him as Doink was awesome. And Crush was good too. I like Bryan Adams. So you go on to this match and you have a ref bump and another Doink appears, right, with the fake arm. so other Doink comes out and he's beating Bryan Adams or Crush with the fake arm, and now you're double doinked, right? You have two Doinks out there. And they do this cool little mirror thing with their hands, and I loved it. It was fun. So I'm 3 matches in to this card, and I'm not seeing a lot where I would think, oh man, this really isn't a good show. I haven't seen anything that points me in that direction yet. So now let's get to another match. I was surprised at how quick this next match was. It wasn't a squash, but it definitely was a little fast for who was in it, and maybe that's the point. So you have Razor Ramon, who comes out and he's a face. He is super cool at this time. I mean, that dude, it's Razor Ramon, and it's Razor Ramon that's top of his game. So you're a year away from WrestleMania 10, which I'll mention here in a little bit. And that there's a lot of significance in that WrestleMania too. So you got cool Razor Ramon comes out, man, and he's going up against Bob Backlund. And I don't really know what to say about Bob Backlund. He is one of the longest reigning champions in the WWF. He had a great run in the 80s, and he goes on to have a storyline with Bret Hart, and that involves Owen Hart, which also leads to WrestleMania 10. So I believe that led to WrestleMania 10 as well. So you have all that, and Backlund is just a super technical wrestler. So you have this clash of really cool guy, Razor Ramon, kind of dorky guy, Bob Backlund, but Backlund is a hell of a wrestler, right? So there's a lot of technical stuff going on in this match. Backlund pulls off a lot of great moves. Razor does a great job selling. And back and forth, Bob Backlund does a great job selling. So it's just a really quick match, ends in a small package, which is kind of you're having Ramon beat the wrestler with a wrestling move. Okay, I get it. I don't know if anything came from this or if this was just a match they just had on the card, but it was nice. It was a nice match. And you can, yeah, that's probably that's the worst thing I've said about anything on this card. But it was okay. I didn't mind it because it gives you this kind of second to take a breath. Because now the next match is for the tag team titles, and this is where you have Money Inc., which is the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and IRS, going up against the Mega Maniacs of Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. So they're making their way to the ring. Hogan and Beefcake come out. You notice Beefcake has this protective mask on. And if you look real close to the mask, it's a pair of scissors. It's really pretty genius move there. But and the story behind that was a parasailing accident where he almost, I believe it was life-threatening at one point, or at least it was a really brutal accident, and he had a lot of stuff going on. So this was, I believe, his first match back. I'm not for sure about that, but so he's got this weird mask on. Hogan's got a black eye, and the commentary team does a good job of playing that up into the story of Ted DiBiase hired some thugs to jump him the night before. That's why he has the black eye. That's why he's a little beat up. All this stuff happens. Great, cool. And then we're kind of getting into the match, right? And Money Inc. does the heel thing, which I don't mind from time to time. They're the champions, and they just kind of get out of the ring and like, oh, I'm not having any of this. I'm leaving, right? And Hogan and Beefcake are in the ring, kind of, well, come on, brother, get back in here, dude, and that kind of stuff. And so they're up the entranceway, right? This is where I was talking about, to remember that the count out rule of getting to keep your title is a thing, because the ref will change the rule. He dips outside, he starts talking to the timekeeper or whatever, and he gives them this, announce over the intercom, the PA, if Money Inc. doesn't get back by the count of 10, they will not only lose the match, they will lose their titles. We just had a count out kind of thing where HBK got to keep his title. So I don't know. Is what it is. So they do that. And then what's really interesting, if you watch matches where, you get into a count out, refs, I'm not saying they take their time or that it's actually longer or shorter than 10 seconds, but man, they were counting fast. So you see Money Inc. just have to book it back to the ring, and they get back in the ring. The match keeps going. There ends up being a ref bump, and Jimmy Hart, who came out with the Mega Maniacs, has, he's got his cool jacket on that's got the airbrush and all that stuff. He takes his jacket off, turns it inside out, and it's ref stripes. So the ref's out. So Jimmy's, acting like he's the ref, and they end up coming out, and a new ref comes out, I'm sorry, and he DQs the Mega Maniacs because of all the chaos that's been going on. So that's not a terrible match either. It's not bad, you know. It's just one of those okay kind of thing. Just the rule change bothered me in that. And that's probably the only thing. I mean, it's still the fans are going crazy for Hogan. And yeah, they're cheering Beefcake too, but Hogan's definitely the fans are losing their minds everything he does. So now we're moving on to this I just didn't know what to think of this match until I watched it. The narcissist Lex Luger goes up against Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig, and the narcissist entrance is great. It's a really awesome entrance. I can see it being a little much if you did it on every show, but he comes out and Luger does a great job playing a narcissist. It makes sense. It works for him. So you have this, and then you have Mr. Perfect comes out, which his music's great, fits his character well, doing the towel over the shoulder stuff. And this is a good match too, man. I mean, Perfect is just such a great wrestler. And Luger, I go back and watch a lot of Luger's matches in WCW, and I've always kind of sold the guy short. And I don't, he just doesn't deserve that. He's good. He's a good pro wrestler. So they have a decent match. And then it's a lot of kind of, I don't know what you want to say, heel work by Luger. A lot of kind of roll ups and backslides and stuff like that. It ends up ending in a backslide where Luger puts his feet up on the ropes or kind of pins Perfect's feet under the ropes so that he couldn't get out of the backslide. Really neat move, something I really hadn't seen that many times, and that may have been the only time I've ever seen it. And then we're building that story of Luger having the plate in the forearm because he knocks out Hennig right after the match, and that was kind of the Macho Man and Brain and all that. They kind of talk about that of Luger just knocking people out all over the place. So it's kind of leading into that forearm kind of stuff, which I believe later on, I think it's King of the Ring, where they talk about he can't use that forearm because of the plate and because it would be deemed illegal or whatever, a foreign object, if you will. So they do that match. And now this next match, I wasn't psyched about. And this is my my attitude towards WrestleMania 9 started super high. And we're slowly, the Steiner and Head Shrinkers kind of about the same level. We're kind of coming down. And then this is where we're going to kind of tone it down. The Undertaker and Giant Gonzalez. For one, you talk about the streak in the Undertaker's WrestleMania streak, and he's even said it before. A lot of those matches aren't good, and he's not lying. You know what I mean? I'm not going to argue with the guy, but this is one of those. The Undertaker's entrance at this WrestleMania was incredible. He comes out, there's smoke. He comes out on a chariot, and there's like a vulture perched on it, like a real live poke your eyes out vulture on the chariot as well. Awesome. But Giant Gonzalez, I don't know what to say about him. I know it's just the guy's like 8 feet tall. So people want to see that. And I just have my opinion is I don't like how they packaged him. I don't like the nudie suit. It's not a good look. I think you could have done something a little better, which if you look at him being 8 feet tall, he's just 8 feet tall. I don't know how I would have packaged him. So maybe that's not fair to talk about how they did. But anyway, it is a match. It happens. It ends with kind of a screwy finish of Whippleman, who comes out with Giant Gonzalez, chucks the cloth into the ring. Gonzalez uses it, and it's supposedly filled with chloroform to knock out Undertaker. Ref calls for the bell, DQ, that kind of angle. And Undertaker gets up and goes after Giant Gonzalez again. And I just, it is what it is. And that's kind of the thing. I didn't know how this match is. I knew this match happened. I didn't know how it ended. And to see it happen in a DQ, and that's considered a part of WrestleMania's of Undertaker's WrestleMania streak, that's what kind of, you're splitting hairs now. I mean, to me, if that streak, some people think it means a lot. Some people don't really put a lot into it because of matches like this. And I understand that now after watching it, which there was no intention to build a streak, but the streak just organically happened. And I would kind of wish that this win would have been an actual 1-2-3 pin or something of that nature, just something to where he actually won. So is what it is. That's probably if I don't like picking worst of anything, but if I had to pick my least favorite match on this card, unfortunately that's it. And I hate to say that because I am a fan of the Undertaker. It's just the Giant Gonzalez thing just didn't work. And they tried, sure. You got to see what sticks to the wall, right? So that was kind of a bummer watching that match. But your main event now is supposed to be great. And it was. So you have the story of Bret Hart and Yokozuna. Bret Hart's the champion. Yokozuna's the challenger. And it's this whole thing of if Yokozuna wins the title, he's taking it back to Japan. So right before the match, Hulkster's back with Mean Gene, cutting a promo. And, Hulk he's backing Bret Hart. He's like, brother, the Hulkamaniacs are behind you, dude. Take your vitamins and, all that kind of stuff. And then he kind of says, whoever wins, he wants the next shot at the title. Awesome. Makes no mention of anything happening that day, but he wants to keep the title in the US. He does say that in that promo. So now we get to the main event. And Yokozuna's, I pay attention to entrances, guys. I pay attention to those little visual things in wrestling that make it better. Yokozuna's entrance is always good. It's a great presentation of what I perceive as an attraction, which Yokozuna is an attraction. I put him up there as an attraction with Brock Lesnar, with Hulk Hogan. You can even say The Undertaker is an attraction. I like that he's just this heel that people want to see. And again, the entrance is great. Fuji, is out in front of him. It's awesome. It's just a great presentation. So then Bret Hart comes out, match gets started. The commentary team does lean on that. If Yokozuna wins the title, he's taking it to Japan. So they get it. They're putting that in the story. They're getting that in your head if you're watching that, oh man, he's going to take the WWE title away from the WWE. So you have all this happen. And one of the things I really like about Yokozuna is his super kick. When he throws a super kick, it's pretty. You can say what you want. It's an awesome super kick. And everybody sells it great that I've seen. There may have been some that didn't, but I think anytime he gets that super kick out there and people sell it, it looks awesome. That's another reason why I still think he's an attraction, because of things like that. So then you go and Bret Hart starts getting some offense, right? He's cutting down the big man. He does a great bulldog off the middle rope on the Yokozuna. It looks beautiful coming off the ropes. And then we're getting this. This didn't last long. I was very surprised. This is maybe 10 minutes. Maybe. That might be stretching it. But then Bret gets the sharpshooter on Yokozuna, and Fuji throws some salt in the eyes of Bret Hart. Then Yokozuna gets the win. And this is where it just gets a little, I would have done things different. Okay. I don't like to criticize. They've done it. They're in the business. I am not. But Hogan comes out. He's wearing different gear. I didn't like that. Dude, you just had a match. It's just, you should have just stay in that same gear. But I get it. Hogan's got to have another shirt to rip, right? So he comes out wearing some awesome yellow cowboy boots, man. If I get my hands on some of those, whoo, you can't tell me nothing, right? So he comes out. Fuji is cutting a promo on him, challenging Hogan right then and there, right? There was no intention of Hogan coming out as far as the fans see or watching a show. It's just Hogan coming out, whatever. Fuji challenges Hogan. Hogan and Hart are outside, and you can see Bret Hart still kind of wiping his eyes. He kind of motions to the Hulkster, go get it, brother, and Hogan gets back in the ring. Fuji goes to throw some salt in Hogan's eyes, misses, hits Yokozuna, bing, bang, boom, leg drop. Hogan wins the title right then and there. One of there should have been a ref bump. I'll say that. I will go on record as saying there should have been a ref bump at that point in time. That way, instead of having the referee staring at Fuji chucking salt, nobody, there's no, the ref didn't see it. It was, he's looking right at him. It doesn't make sense. But so the ref let a lot slide in that moment. And then, Hogan gets the belt and he posed forever, playing it up to the crowd, ripping that new t-shirt off, brother, pointing to the belt, pointing to his face, doing all kinds of stuff. So in a nutshell, that was WrestleMania 9. I liked it. I like WrestleMania 9. I don't think it should be on people's short list of worst. I'll never do a list of worst. I don't look at things that way, as I've said before. But I just can't see how people think, if this is the worst, if people really think WrestleMania 9 is the worst, then there are some really great WrestleManias out there. And I think you're just shortchanging pro wrestling if you nitpick it that much. So there are a couple things I wanted to get into, though. Hogan's black eye. What really happened? That depends who you listen to, I guess. Did a little bit of researching, a little bit of detective work. And you have guys on all kinds of other podcasts or other interviews, even books, whatever. And they talk about, how Hogan got this mysterious black eye. And if you look at that thing, man, I've seen my share of shiners in my life, but that thing, like, his eyeball is black. It's not just around his eye. It's his actual eyeball. Great look. If you're to me, if you're being a pro wrestler, it's awesome. So the gist of it was, and this is from like Brutus, as I believe, said this on some stuff. So this is just the rumors. I'm not going to say anything is set in stone. This is just what I understand from the research I did on the internet, on the Googs, that he got caught with a wave runner in the face. Is what I understand. He was out riding a wave runner. Apparently it got a little loose from him. He got out of control and it hit him in the face. All right, sure. I'll take it. Dude lives down in Tampa or Florida. I think Tampa Bay is where he's at. Or at least that's where you hear where he is. And so I can buy that. Sure. I'll take it. Another thing is a few peoples have come out and said that Macho Man punched him in the face. I don't know how true that is. I mean, I don't know if whatever. I don't like getting into what problems exist outside of pro wrestling for the talent. That's not my business. But sure. I mean, if that happened, that happened. I think they did a great job as far as the WWE as incorporating it into the storyline of Ted DiBiase hiring some goons to take him out. Fine. We would have been fine if we never knew how it happened. I don't even know if either of those stories are true. I have no idea. So that's one of the things that I don't like, the curtain being pulled back too far in pro wrestling. But hey, whatever. So now I just kind of want to talk about him winning the title. I don't I don't think a lot of fans like how it happened. I can agree with that. But this was kind of supposed to have been a farewell tour for Hogan. At the towards the end of this year, I believe he was done with the WWE or the WWF at that time. And they had, what I understand, there was a European tour. There was kind of, that was it for him. He was the champion on that tour. He was supposed to drop the belt, I guess, to Bret Hart. That didn't happen. There's some language depending who you listen to or who you talk to there. I'm not going to get into that because, again, I don't know what's true in this kind of stuff. So they ended up, I believe Yoko gets the belt back. And then obviously that builds WrestleMania 10, which I love WrestleMania 10. I'll talk about that some other time. But a lot of this, it just seems, this is where I talk about not pulling the curtain back too far. As far as the politics of pro wrestling, we all know it's there. We know it's there. I don't need to tell you that it's there. We all know it. I don't care. I don't watch pro wrestling to wonder who's friends with who's buddying up to somebody else. I don't care. I'm watching a product. I'm watching a show. So, whatever happened between Hogan, Vince, and Bret is what happened between them. I think it sucks that it's kind of a bad taste for Bret Hart's, and like in his book, he just talks about it just wasn't good for him, I guess, in a way. It kind of soured his relationship, I guess, with Hogan. And then, obviously later on, the relationship between Vince and Bret kind of takes a turn for the Montreal screw job, which I'll talk about that some other time too. But I just don't like getting into the backstage politics because I think pro wrestling should be fun. I mean, to quote Road Dogg Jesse James, it's phony baloney wrestling. To me, it's a show. It's entertainment. So yeah, I don't know what happened about the backstage politics. I'll get off my soapbox about that. I don't want to get on this tangent of talking about that. I can do that some other time. So, but WrestleMania 9, is it bad? Is it the worst? Absolutely not. It's a great show. Take time to watch it. You'll enjoy it. So that's it. WrestleMania 9 per Wrestleverse is pretty damn good. So check it out. Check out the Instagram there, man. Wrestleverse. You got obviously the YouTube channel. And that's it.